All right, Krystal, what's on your radar?
Well, our good friends in the Democratic Party establishment are tying themselves into knots trying to figure out how to deal with Tara Reade's credible allegation of sexual assault against Joe Biden. You almost have to feel bad for them as they attempt to reconcile two completely unreconcilable things: their vociferous and aggressive support for Christine Blasey Ford and their utter and complete servitude to their partisan team. You almost have to feel bad for them. Pelosi became agitated when she was asked by a reporter to square this circle.
Well, let me just say, I respect your question, and I don't need a lecture or a speech. Here's the thing. I have complete respect for the whole Me Too movement. I have 4 daughters and 1 son, and there's a lot of excitement around the idea that women will be heard and be listened to. There is also due process. And the fact that Joe Biden is Joe Biden, there's been statements from his campaign, or not his campaign, but his former employees who ran his offices and the rest, that there was never any record of this. There was never any record. And that nobody ever came forward, or nobody ever came forward to say something about it apart from the principal involved. I am so proud. The happiest day for me this week was to support Joe Biden for President of the United States.
Joe Biden is Joe Biden, a modern twist on the old boys will be boys classic. Pelosi decided to endorse Joe at absolutely the worst possible moment, right as a series of bombshells dropped, providing significant corroboration to Tara's allegations. Not to be outdone, Hillary Clinton decided this was the week to endorse Joe as well, and at a virtual women's summit no less, sexual violence came up. Tara Reade did not.
Hello, everyone.
And while liberal feminists were cheered when Biden promised to pick a woman as his VP, they're now starting to feel a little queasy about what exactly that woman is going to be signing up for. Rebecca Traister described the slot as a, quote, poisoned chalice, as this woman is inevitably forced to answer over and over again for Biden's treatment of other women, including the serious allegations of assault leveled by Tara Reade. Now, the truth is, nearly all the women who are being considered seriously for Biden's VP slot, from Warren to Klobuchar to Kamala, were in fact instrumental in handing him the nomination. So it's hard to feel too bad for them, but it has been gross to watch them have to answer questions along with Bernie and AOC and more while Biden has lobbed softballs by a fawning press. It's not that Biden endorsers shouldn't be questioned. Of course they should. It's that Biden should have been questioned long before today. After all, we interviewed Tara here over a month ago. Politico is reporting that, in fact, this whole credibly accused of sexual assault thing is creating unexpected challenges in that VP selection process. Mark Caputo writes, the job description for Joe Biden's running mate has suddenly become more complicated. The Democratic vice presidential nominee must now defend him against sexual assault accusations without looking hypocritical. Caputo interviewed a Democratic advisor to one of the VP contenders who informed him that, you gotta love this one, believe the woman didn't mean believe all women all the time, but this is an era of slogans and we are paying the price for that. Oh, got it. Believe women only applied when it didn't conflict with larger political goals and personal ambitions. I see you now. But look, I don't want to dismiss the uncomfortable position that they really are in, because if they lend any credence to these allegations whatsoever, they will be faced with the wrath and the fury of the entire Democratic power structure and the rabid cultist base of the party, which, as we speak, are trying to get Chris Hayes fired for daring to even cover Tara's allegations. So I have some advice for our friends in the Democratic Party. You don't have to do this. You really don't. Joe has not actually clinched the nomination. He has not actually won a majority of the delegates. What's more, the aligned forces of the Democratic establishment gave Joe the nomination, so they can certainly take it back. There is still time, given the evidence that has newly been revealed, to make a different choice. And let's be honest, Democrats, Reporters are only now getting serious about digging into this thing to find additional evidence and potentially additional accusers. It was just Wednesday of this week that the Washington Post called for Biden to release his personnel records. Ronan Farrow is now reportedly investigating the allegation after the Biden team overreached in trying to pin their defense on a bogus assertion that the New York Times had cleared them. Legacy Media is now invested in adding something additional to the story so that they can credibly claim to have approached this with vigor. Do you really want to bet that there's nothing else out there, that there's no other shoe to drop? And putting all of this aside, Dems, do you really feel amazing about how the Biden campaign is going right now? I mean, the lackluster fundraising, the meandering answers, the complete absence of leadership. You sure this is the guy you want to bet the farm on? Because as much as Bernie Sanders was a threat to the Democratic establishment, another loss to Donald Trump could also be a threat to the Democratic establishment. How much legitimacy are all of these people and their media allies going to maintain when the guy they promised us was the one who could win fails to deliver on literally the only thing that Dem primary voters cared about when they went to the polls? I mean, look, I'm sure they'll do their best with Russia or Comey or electoral college excuses or whatever. But might the voters begin to ask some hard questions about why the very folks you keep telling us we have to suck it up and settle for because they are so darn electable keep failing to get elected? I don't know that voters will open their eyes, but they might. And that is something that should send shivers down the spine of every operative in this town. The truth is that Dems, who've been openly salivating over Cuomo's big boss man energy, would already be contemplating Plan B options, if not for one teeny tiny inconvenient fact. Bernie Sanders would be the logical replacement. As Brianna Joy Gray put it, if Kamala Harris or Pete were in second in the delegate count, do we think we'd be having more of a public conversation about Biden dropping out? Excellent question, Brianna. Of course, we all know the answer. And so rather than risk Bernie having another shot, they'll stand by their man and gaslight you into thinking that there is no other option. In fact, there is another option. Instead, they're making the choice to embrace the rousing moral clarity of Joe Biden is Joe Biden. Good luck with that one, guys. I think there's a lot of gaslighting going on in this because it's like, number one, they want to say there's no other choice. Joe Biden is the guy. This is what we must do, because then they can turn around and say, and that's why if you even bring this up, you're helping Trump. Right? If they acknowledge that, you know what, there's still time, we could still evaluate these claims honestly and see what else comes out and potentially make a different choice, then you're only part of a vetting process. You're not helping Trump.
That's exactly right. And it's funny, again, the media and all of these never-Trumpers who work in the media now as commentators, they know this well. Why?
Right.
Because after Donald Trump actually secured the nomination via delegates, there was still a huge discussion about, hey, they could take it away from him on the floor. They're like, will somebody like Ted Cruz stand up and they'll start like a draft convention and everybody was parsing all of the rules. They're like John Kasich and others. Maybe they could team up in the second ballot. And if they deny it. I mean, I remember all of this. They were all ready. They know the rules. They know exactly. And there were Democrats fomenting this. Hillary Clinton's speech, remember, this is not your father's Republican Party. This is not the Republican Party that we remember.
If Bernie Sanders was faced with these allegations, do you think they'd be going, oh, but we can't do anything. Why? Don't even talk about it. This is locked up for Bernie. No, even when he was in the lead and it looked very likely that he was going to get a plurality of delegates, they were still planning on taking it from him at the convention. So the idea that this is overdone, set, there's nothing we can do. I mean, look, do I think it's likely that they're going to switch him out? No, exactly because of the fact that voters would look around and go, okay, well, Bernie got second, so let's just go with him.
Yeah,
like, he's the guy, he's got delegates, let's just go with that. There would be, chaos. They would, of course, never go along with that. They'd try to pick God knows who, maybe even like somebody who Bernie had soundly defeated in the primary. It would create a split in the party, all of that, because they wouldn't want to do the logical thing. Now, What I will say is if more accusers do emerge, and there are reporters working on potentially that angle right now, that doesn't mean they're going to find anything. If that was to happen, then I do think you start to see more of a conversation about how do we pull this off and get someone else in here. They're never going to go with Bernie Sanders, but how do we pull this off and switch Joe out and pressure him out of the race? They made him, they could take it away.
That is true, but they've already, they made him, and they haven't just made him. Look at Nancy Pelosi's out there sounding like a Republican during the Kavanaugh hearings. I mean,
100%. Due process.
Stacey Abrams and all these other people are saying the same thing that everybody on the right said. So they're so utterly hypocritical and all in on power and invested in Biden. I don't think they can do it at this point. They just can't. I mean, after you put yourself on the...
If their self-interest flips, then they would do it.
That's what it would... I think it'd have to take like Access Hollywood. I think it would have to be like on-tape level type stuff in order for them to get to do it. Because otherwise, they still just won't confront it.
Yeah, I think, again, because if it was Kamala Harris in second, no problem.
Oh, yeah.
They push him out in a heartbeat. If they thought that they could get Andrew Cuomo in there and do that little switcheroo, no problem. But the fact that Bernie Sanders still looms with a base of organized, enthusiastic support means that they're sticking with Joe.
That I agree with.
Next on Rising, America First Action, a Trump super PAC is going to bring us a never-before-seen campaign ad exclusively here and explains why they think the attacks on Biden's China record are fair and working.